Right. The Wednesday, April 16th meeting of the Planning Commission is in session. Can we get a roll call for attendance, please?
Yeah. Commissioner Dunwoody,
Present.
Commissioner Simmons, Commissioner Davis Jr., Commissioner Hollyfield, Commissioner Smith,
Present.
Commissioner Shear,
Present.
Commissioner Jones-Chance, Commissioner Marin,
Present.
Commissioner Woodring.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Very good. Thank you. A motion would be in order to excuse the absence of Commissioner Hollifield.
Support.
Motion by Mike, support by Amanda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We have agenda approval. Any comments or concerns with the agenda presented for this evening? Motion would be in order to approve the agenda.
So moved. Support.
Motion by Mike, support by Michelle. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have approval of minutes from our March 19th meeting. Any comments with the minutes as written? Hearing none, a motion would be in order to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Support.
Motion by Greg, support by Michelle. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. That brings us to public comment. We will open the floor for comment to Planning Commission on any items for which there is not a public hearing this evening. Josh, if you could confirm there will be a public hearing for 326 East Michigan, correct?
No, there will not be.
No public
It's
hearing.
a use permitted by right.
Oh, okay, good. Thanks for the clarification. So this will be the first of only two opportunities to comment on Planning Commission this evening. We're going to ask that folks speaking start with their name and just limit their comments to 3 minutes. With that out of the way, a motion would be in order to open the public comment.
Moved. Support.
Motion by Mike. Opposed. Motion carries. We'll start with any comments in the room. Or Josh, if you have an eye on Zoom.
There's nobody on Zoom.
Oh, okay. That makes that easy, huh? Last chance. Okay, seeing no speakers, a motion would be in order to close the public comment.
So moved.
Support.
We had a motion by Greg, support by Amanda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. That was your motion, right?
Yes.
Okay. Knew it was one of you two. Let's see, we have committee reports. Mike, any news for us on the non-motorized advisory committee?
Just a quick update this month. So we were able to meet last week, and I think that was our first official meeting of the year. That's right, it was one in January, excuse me. And so we discussed we spent too much time talking about bylaws. So we're working on making some updates to the bylaws, and then those will be updated again, as we were told by Councilmember Wilcoxon, that the city as a whole is reviewing bylaws for all commissions. So we'll spend more time in the fall in that enjoyable task. And but our 2025 committees, or excuse me, priorities for the group are going to be working with the city in some various departments, as well as externals, about non-motorized work and projects that's happening in and around the city, and developing a kind of community input and outreach plan, how we can focus more on communication about what's happening in the city, what's in the city, and upcoming projects. And then finally, continuing our community recognition and awareness. So that kind of is, we have a variety of, every so often, I think every few years, bike-friendly communities, walk-friendly communities, all those sort of awards and recognitions that the group has been applying for the last 15 years. So that's what we'll be focusing on for the rest of this year. And additionally, trying to get new members, as we had a lot of people move out of the city. And so if you know anybody that's interested in biking and walking in the community and has time for an extra meeting once a month with some cool people, just pass it along.
It's old. Which bylaws, if I may?
We had some bylaws about how we could hold the meeting and what counted for a quorum, what did not count. And so the reworking by the city clerk with the Open Meetings Act, we're back to how we were before. We had this brief golden period where we could meet half in person, half virtually. Can't do that anymore.
Okay.
So we're still, I think we're still be working with Josh to get a recording of the meetings going forward in the Zoom link, but not counting for a quorum. So there's been different readings of, well, I think the Open Meetings Act has been revised several times. And the most recent one has even subcommittees of commissions being subject to Open Meetings Act, which I don't think was so clear in the past. So I think that's the big one. And then what's the other one, Josh? Number. I think actually having an actual cap on the actual membership. Which we
Was there not one?
apparently it was not one. We haven't faced that. So so we just pay.
Okay.
That's about right? I think so, yeah. And then we're running the meeting in a collaborative fashion. We're not using Robert's Rules of Order.
Gotcha. Very good. Appreciate the update. Any other questions for Mike on the non-motorized advisory committee business? All right, moving right along. We have nothing for presentations this evening, so we'll jump right into old business. Item A is the dark sky ordinance discussion. Josh, I'll turn it over to you.
Let me go ahead and share my screen really quickly. Okay. Perfect. Yeah, so everyone's already seen this presentation. Nothing's changed. For those who have not seen the presentation, I highly encourage that you all kind of go to the Agenda Center and look it over. It basically talks about the importance of having a dark sky compliant ordinance, what that would look like, principles of responsible outdoor lighting, and all of that. And it also includes like language from other communities as well. So it's just a good little presentation to look at. In regards to the draft language, I do want to mention that there are still like cross references throughout the zoning ordinance that I didn't touch on yet. I just wanted to kind of bring like a proposed proposed draft language for the primary part of what the ordinance is going to be, and then kind of see if there's any major changes that the Planning Commission would like to make, or if there aren't many, or if there are many, then next meeting we can talk about, the definitions that we'd like to include, which if you guys want to add any definitions, also feel free to let me know. Read through ordinance in particular, or I can like briefly skim over it.
Skim
Okay.
feels adequate. I think we talked about most of the topics in the last meeting, so we'll save you the time.
Yeah, so ultimately, the language starts off with the purpose, and then you have the applicability that kind of goes over, when lights should be brought into compliance with this zoning ordinance. It also includes, language about nonconformities. And it also talks about enforcement as well, which is something the city has struggled with in the past because we've not had language really in our ordinance that makes it possible to ensure that we can minimize excessive lighting. In regards to 122-609C, this has the specifications. So as you'll see, the maximum color temperature for light fixtures cannot exceed 3,000. Unless otherwise exempted, the lights shall be fully cut off, fully shielded and directed downwards. This is similar. This is the same as was in our previous ordinance where it says that the is notable in Ann Arbor's zoning ordinance as well for their downtown zoning districts where the lighting shall not exceed 8-foot candles at the lot line, just because, that one's a little bit more challenging because they're built at the lot line. And then There's also language that the lighting intensity provided at the ground level must be a minimum of 1/3 foot candles, but shall not exceed 15-foot candles anywhere in the area to be illuminated. Prevent glare. Motion activated lights are permitted, provided that they fully comply. Um, Flashing, blinking, and moving is strictly prohibited. And then there's, that there's a height maximum for the exterior freestanding light fixtures. They're freestanding poles, more or less, and the language shows that they shall not exceed 20 feet in height. However, the Planning Commission can modify the restriction up to 30 feet in height, if it's necessary. Things ordinance in regards to the wall-mounted lighting specifications that they shall not exceed, or they shall not be aimed no higher than 45 degrees below language in regards to the historic district, and that's because in the historic district guidelines, LED strip lights are not, they do not comply with district guidelines. So, there's just that extra little nuance included in there. And then finally, the last part is just the administrative requirements where it states that exterior lighting plans may be approved by the city planner. However, I may defer the approval to Planning Commission if I feel necessary, which is already built into the language of the ordinance. I just put it there just so that if anybody's looking at it, I can be like, well, it's right there. So, does anybody have any questions in regards to this?
No
Any
questions,
concerns?
Comments?
Let's jump in then. You can start.
So I think what you started with definitions. So the last section, or I should say the second page regarding the decorative ornamental lighting, doing some Googling, I think ornamental lighting is going to be really hard to define.
Mhm.
If in some of these areas, if there's a different word than ornamental lighting that we could use, it might be beneficial. Because I think my big note is like to ease enforcement of it, right? So we're not encouraging ticketing of the lights that we are okay with and not the ones that we're not okay with.
Can I ask real quick just to clarify that point? So there are kind of two bullets under decorative ornamental lighting. One of those is specifically for uplighting, and the second one is for indoor lighting.
Yeah.
So I feel like between those two, we have two kind of like more specific definitions. Are you worried about items that fit into like decorative ornamental lighting that are outside of the definition of those two?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think the one that was, I think is going to be the most difficult was the indoor lighting. So
Mhm.
it says indoor lighting designed to be seen from the exterior, such as neon tubing, outlining windows, holiday decorative lighting, or ornamental lighting. What is ornamental lighting? That's what I think is. So, and then when you say ornamental lighting for businesses, offices, then it can, so range of a lot of things come up.
That is defined here as still indoor, right?
It's still indoor.
Like based on the way this is worded.
Yeah.
Like it is indoor lighting such as outlining windows, holiday decorative lighting or ornamental lighting. So this is like ornamental indoor
Yeah.
lighting still.
Yeah, which
Okay.
I included that language because I wasn't exactly sure what to refer to, like other language, like if somebody has like shop and they have like a lamp or something,
Right.
or something like that. And we do in our present language. I don't think it specifically says decorative ornamental lighting, but it does say decorative ornamental uplighting. So that is
Okay.
presently in the ordinance. But I don't believe we actually have it in our code of ordinances as to what that's defined as.
So actually these questions, Matt, actually bring me to my second point, which the indoor lighting section in itself, I'm not sure about its usefulness as it's written. And you noted in the presentation that we talked about it in the minutes last time, so I looked at what we mentioned. And we had referred to the Ann Arbor lighting ordinance. And so the section that I highlighted was 5.25.4 on page 25 of the PDF. It says indoor lighting shall not be the source of exterior light, trespass, or glare as in specified in the other sections. I would maybe substitute that for what you have, what you propose written here.
But again,
It's on page 25. It's section C. So they're indoor lighting. I think what I was having trouble disconnecting was indoor lighting designed to be seen from the exterior. And then with the or statement, ornamental. I don't want people to get a ticket because they put in a chandelier in their storefront. I don't want people to not get ticketed because they put in an unshielded LED light strip facing out onto Michigan Ave. So I think that the Ann Arbor one could be a good splitting the difference in that it's like clear that it shouldn't be the source of exterior light out onto the street. And you've already referenced the 8-foot candle section of the thing. I think that
really quickly though, that was actually something I remembered I wanted to ask. How does the planning commission feel about permitting LED strip lights around windows of businesses?
nay.
Is that a notion shared by the rest of the commission? And again,
Neon tubing outlining windows.
Mhm.
So
We are kind of explicitly permitting it in this language.
we're explicitly calling out an example of something that we don't have that's consistent with our built environment, neon signs, different than LED light strips.
which I realized that's what I meant was LED strips, and I put neon tubing. So I realized that after I had my coworker look and the packet was already out, so I was like, oh whoops.
So Josh wrote it how I want it,
Right.
which is not to allow LED light strips, which is what we have now in our commercial district.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the operative bit there is like outlining windows, right? Because the neon tubing for like window signs, I feel like is different from the LED light strip outlining a window just for the purpose of like grabbing attention.
I agree.
And I don't like, I know that was discussed in our March meeting specifically because of like timing, right? Like the LED strips outlining windows that don't shut off, right? And like that is, you know, I don't want to speak for the commission, but that got a little bit of grief in the March meeting. I think if nothing else, like the timing bit there is what makes that less attractive. I don't know if you're going to get a lot of people defending it regardless, though. Anybody else have any thoughts that they want to add on LED strip lighting, outlining windows?
So no LED strip lights, but yes to neon like signs, like if they have like a neon.
Yeah, I don't have
Window sign.
I don't have a problem with neon window signs. I think it is like specifically just the window outlining LED strips that are unappealing.
If we're specifically referring to indoor lighting when we do that, they're all just gonna mount it on the outside. Depot Town, they have the lights mounted on the outside. I noticed when I was walking past there the other day. And so I agree that they're not great and we probably shouldn't permit them, but I think that's a huge loophole.
Wouldn't it still be applicable to the 8-foot candle rule?
Yes. I mean, and again, like in Depot Town, that's something that the any code enforcement officer could enforce upon presently, just because it doesn't comply with historic district guidelines. But I mean, I can rework the language just to outright prohibit them, regardless as to whether or not they're indoor or outdoor.
And from an enforcement perspective, like that is neither, like that is not going to be full cutoff, right? Like there are other problems with that being items about like grandfathering in existing non-conforming lighting is that if enforcement deems it to be a nuisance to the public, then it will need to be brought into conformance with this code. And so something like that, that doesn't meet the full cutoff requirements, that is a nuisance, is still enforceable.
It seems to me that as long as it was conforming with the light levels requirement, I'm not sure why it specifically being LED strips would be problematic. I imagine most LED strips aren't conforming with that, but that's kind of where I'm at on it.
How do we feel as a commission, trying not to be overly onerous, but again, if we say you can't do it, you just don't buy it. So that's pretty not onerous than a business owner. Just preventing lit outline windows. Like we've past commissioners and this commission has gone through, developed a form-based code, and accentuate is not the right word, that has a very high bar for windows, right? The amount of, what's the word I'm looking for here? Transparency requirements in these. And now we have this new technology that's then taking all these beautiful street pedestrian level windows that we've all pushed for and putting exterior lighting out into the public space. Just why do we have it? It doesn't, what's our benefit? And it's not hurt. I don't think it's onerous to tell people, don't buy that type of light.
Agreed.
Yeah, I mean, it is a fine line, like what lights are a nuisance or not, right? But like that is kind of to Greg's point, like I don't know if LED is bad by default, but I feel like most of the lighting that you see that is like an obvious nuisance is LED strip lighting, right?
Mhm.
And so yeah, I kind of where I land on that with there being that can be brought into compliance if it's deemed to be a nuisance by code enforcement. I think for me, that closes the loophole for this just going exterior. Maybe that's relying on the enforcement mechanism too much, but
I mean, I will say we have one of the code enforcement officials and I have started looking into enforcement. So like after my
Yeah.
night meetings, and in the winter, like I'm gonna be able to just pop on over, do a read. You know what I mean? It honestly is a little bit easier now. So we receive a complaint, there's something we can look into it. So
okay. I did want to note for the indoor lighting that there is nothing in that bullet point in the text as written that indicates the like such that the lighting meets other requirements. So under like item J for decorative ornamental lighting, the first bullet point says, provided that the light output does not exceed 400 lumens or a color temperature, the indoor lighting bit doesn't have any of those restrictions. So I think that's solved with Mike's language with proposing just that indoor lighting doesn't create for outdoor lighting that doesn't meet the requirements here. So I think that probably kills two birds, but wanted to note that as you're kind of revising some of the language here. The other item I wanted to ask is for the exterior freestanding light fixtures, the language that's included here reads that the planning commission may modify the height restrictions in commercial or industrial districts up to 30 feet in height. And as I was reading that, this like how how an applicant or a resident or somebody with a commercial business with this exterior lighting knows the mechanism to kind of follow here. Like if it's part of a site plan review, then I feel like that would come up in, the site plan review. But I think it's not clear about what our tools are for modifying that on a site-specific basis. It just feels non-specific. I might almost just give that the same language that you put at the end for like, exterior lighting plan can be approved administratively or defer to approval from the planning commission. So if it's already under a site plan that is getting reviewed by the planning commission, then it's included. Otherwise, they can work through planning staff.
So are you thinking, if the height maximum is kept at 20, the planning commission could then like provide like a waiver or something? I mean, and like there is language in the ordinance that allows you guys to disregard a part of the ordinance if it's not
Right.
applicable.
Yeah.
So are you just wanting to either just kind of scratch that and you already kind of have it built into the purviews of the ordinance anyways? Or
Scratch what part?
like scratch the part where it says the planning commission may modify the height restriction?
I'm okay with like what we're saying the restrictions are, 20 feet generally, 30 feet with like a planning commission waiver.
Okay.
My concern is just that it's not clear like what the mechanism is for there being any review or waiving of the requirements, and I think it's non-specific.
Okay.
If it's part of a site plan review, then it comes up very naturally. If it's not part of a site plan review, if it is,
So I could say, during a site plan review or a commission may.
Yeah.
Okay.
that works. Yeah, the same language that's in the end with administrative requirements, submitting an exterior lighting plan for approval. Any other items on the draft language here?
I have three major, or not, wow. That came in real hot. I have three primary thoughts. Well, I have some language thoughts, but they're non-substantive, just to remove ambiguity, which I won't mention now. The purpose section, I think that can be beefed up a bit, just considering defensibility, because this is comparatively like a pretty progressive lighting ordinance. So I think there's room to tie that more closely to the master plan. So if there's any litigation, we have that to lean on, and I'm happy to send you some thoughts on that. Secondly, I think the section 122.309 for site plans needs to include more detail of the requirements that are now going to be expected for lighting details, because right now it pretty much just says like photometric study, but we also need, all these other details. And then last, there is nothing about reduction of lighting at night. And including that section would definitely be dark sky compliant. And language there. Yeah. What do y'all think?
No, I mean, the use light only when it is needed, I think is an important bit to capture here. I did not entirely capture your second point because I was making a note about the first.
Site plan section needs to also be updated whenever we do the ordinance amendment. Yeah.
Gotcha. It's agreeable.
And it also sounded like we're getting rid of lit window displays. So nobody objected to Josh's question and my suggestion that we just don't permit outlining of windows.
Yeah, agreed.
I guess one other just very small comment. As you mentioned that this is just the brand new text. So looking at the existing 609, there was some language in there right now that I thought might be helpful to keep. One of those kind of being, if I can find it, that all that says like all outdoor lighting must be designed and arranged so as not to shine on adjacent properties or occupied dwellings or adversely impact vehicular or pedestrian traffic on nearby streets, drives, walkways, or general rights of way. I think keeping that somewhere would make sense. I'm thinking specifically to help you and enforcement on what's non-conforming in this moment today, and then what's non-conforming in additionally if we were to pass a new ordinance.
Draft language together here. A lot easier to talk about kind of the specific language. I feel like we are getting close, and I appreciate your work in getting us there.
Thank you, Josh.
There is another item under old business for master plan consideration. I don't think there was anything in the packet unless I missed that.
No.
What do you have for master plan consideration?
It's just more like getting the planning commission's feedback on, I don't know if you all have had a chance to review the master plan. But if you have any like major concerns and we need a major amendment or need a major master plan update, that's let me know. If not, we can just do the minor updates. I don't exactly know how much money we might be able to allocate towards master plan. It's budget season, so we'll hopefully have an idea pretty soon. But yeah, I was wondering what the planning commission thinks in regards to whether or not we should just do minor amendments or major.
I think we talked about this a little bit already.
Yeah, we kind of took like if I remember right, I think we took some homework with us from March to kind of bring specific bits that we think might need focus in a rewrite so that we can use that to inform some of our next steps.
I think the biggest piece for me that we already talked about that doesn't require that piece of homework is the commentary last time around how because of the timing of it last time there was not a robust community engagement. And so to me, like, that is like, we already know we need to spend some money on that.
Because last time when we talked about it in March, I was the most outspoken about a full update. Went back and looked at it. I echoed others' thoughts from March that I think our master plan is a good master plan. So I agree with Amanda that I think we could proceed with an update, but I don't think we should consider it a minor update. I think we should look at it as a substantive update with some robust public engagement, using the fundamentals that we have in there as our guiding values is to guide our values as we revise our guided values.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know that there's, I don't know where we draw the line between minor update and major update, but it
Right.
sounds like what you're saying is that it is a refresh and not a rewrite.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's capturing,
I'm fine with that as long as we get public engagement,
right.
which once you get public engagement, it can lead to other
A
things.
major update.
Pandemic again by that.
Fingers crossed. We have a few voices in favor of refresh and not rewrite. Any opinions to the contrary?
I do agree, but with the new legislation that was passed last year, it's required that Josh knows that we substantially discuss housing and do a needs assessment in the master plan. We discuss housing in the current master plan, but I don't know if would be considered compliant. So there's not a housing chapter. So in that way, it would be a rewrite. I don't know what language we're using for rewrite.
Well, I think Matt, let's not do refresh versus rewrite. Let's say we're not throwing it out. We're not starting with a blank page.
Right. We're
Yeah.
not rewriting.
Yes, we're rewriting and refreshing. But we're not like, I think doing a brand new plan would be,
A rewrite.
yeah,
Right.
just totally chucking out what we
Right.
had.
We're doing an update.
Yeah, we're doing an update.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do think that there is room within like our, whether minor or major is the framework we're using, or refresh or rewrite. I think there is space in a change here for like adding a section on housing where it doesn't exist currently, right? Like I think that's still, we can keep a lot of the framework of what is there and, add sections as we see fit.
Michelle, can you refresh some of the commissioners' minds about the law update you referenced?
So in the MPEA now, it says that you need to do a housing needs assessment and like, do I have the language up?
Does that mean you can write in your plan, we need housing?
We need specific, well, we need to provide for a different range of housing types. We need to have solid strategies and goals. We have housing a lot in our master plan, but I think it can be beefed up in order to comply with this fully.
Okay. Thank you. Something more than a sentence that says, we need houses.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, good to know.
Yeah, I think the assessment is probably gonna be the major thing because it's always gonna be different every 5 years.
Yeah.
Well, and like one of the things is that we have, Water Street, which will hopefully happen. We also have a parcel, I think it's 1901 North Huron River, which is currently the master plan. And it's a 5-acre parcel. I've had a few inquiries over time about, people wanting to build multifamily housing there. Currently just a single family lot, but, presently it's zoned R1. But in the future land use map, it shows that there would be, multifamily housing. So that's maybe something that we can consider as well. Like that's a relatively large parcel, in the sense of what we have available to us. So that's definitely something to consider as well. Like maybe there are some parcels that we can re-envision, I suppose.
I just want to say your optimism regarding Water Street is truly appreciated. It's not shared amongst many of your fellow peers, but we super appreciate it. Channeling your optimism.
Is it refreshing or is it rewriting?
Yeah. It's just a rewrite.
I think that we will have a lot of time dedicated to the master plan update. Does that give you what you need right now? Okay, very good. I'm going to move right along to new business then. We have the 326 East Michigan proposed arts and crafts studio. I'll turn it over to you again, Josh, for staff presentation.
Home, 326 East Michigan, there's a proposed arts and crafts studio there. The site is presently owned by the city. And we fully authorized this, just a heads up. But the site is essentially owned by the city, and there's this proposal for the arts and crafts studio. I already said that, but essentially it shows one building. There is no parking presently proposed on site. You have the dumpster enclosure in the corner. I had a couple of comments in regards to landscaping along the front, like street trees and foundational landscaping. There is also this easement where the power line kind of goes over it. I think it goes 6 feet from each direction, essentially. When I go to the staff review, per se, there wasn't a ton that I had any concerns about. For the most part, it was entirely compliant with the zoning ordinance. There were just a couple of things that we would need clarified. Let me just scroll down to the bottom. For one, there are 2 waivers that would need to be granted. Particularly the location of the street trees, but also a waiver to eliminate the designated zoning loading zone. And then there's also the 4 conditions, one of which is that this applicant shall provide a shared parking agreement, or if they provided 16 covered bike spaces, they would no longer need a parking lot per the parking reductions in the zoning ordinance. We don't have a photometric plan yet, but we would need a photometric plan that's compliant with 122.609, We need additional foundation landscaping that is compliant with 637. And then the applicant, this is just something that's broad in every site plan review that I have, but the applicant shall receive all necessary approvals from engineering, YCUA, DPW, and the fire department. So the engineer has not had a chance to really look over engineering just yet. But in the event that the planning commission, does approve this tonight, we'll just kickstart the detailed engineering review, and the engineers will be able to work forward from there. So is there anything that you guys would like me to go over? Any questions that you have in regards to my review?
I have a question about the lack of a dedicated parking lot. Is that because they don't want to build a parking lot? There's not room for the parking lot, or they feel they can meet the obligation by sharing with a neighbor?
For the intention, they're hoping to get a shared parking agreement with the neighbor. I'm not exactly sure why there isn't, other than that, I'm not exactly sure why there isn't a proposal to build the parking lot, but we do have them here today. And so if you guys would like, we can ask the designers to come up and discuss it.
If the applicant is present, would care to come up to the microphone? So the initial question here is about parking. I'll ask that you answer that, and then I'll give you an opportunity to just speak to the application broadly.
So good evening. My name is Brandon Cheney. I'm with Naderveld. We're the land planners and the civil engineers for the project. I'm also joined by Heather with Youth Arts Alliance and Adam, who's also a part of the architectural team. Can you repeat the specific question as it pertains to parking?
Just curious about the parking situation. Is there not room for a parking lot?
No, I think honestly, the way we approach this, I mean, I think for code right now, we'd be required 4 parking spaces. So the use itself, we think really lends itself to being, multimodal transportation, right? So we're really trying to promote people in the community to walk and bike to the community center. But then we also do feel like we can meet the requirements through shared parking. There is a lot of off-street parking nearby. So the thought would be that we'd be able to secure an agreement with one of the neighboring properties to utilize their parking.
That answer your question?
Mhm.
Very good. Anything else on the application that you want to share while you have the microphone?
No, but we are here if you guys have any additional questions.
Great. Thank you. Anything right now before they sit?
Not for me.
Very good. On the parking bit, this is in the general corridor.
Correct.
General corridor, by definition, general corridors are located along roads with heavy traffic and have commercial establishments, restaurants, offices, and other businesses that are geared toward automobile traffic. Multiple family residential building types and uses are appropriate in this district. There is a small parking requirement here. That general corridor language is specific for kind of automobile geared traffic. We are close to the center district, right, where we have, we have a form that is kind of more geared towards being walkable and not focusing on-site parking. And so, I don't know that I feel that strongly if there is a bike option that reduces the parking requirement or if there is a shared agreement, because I feel like even if this is technically general corridor, I don't expect parking to be an issue here, because there is downtown parking, a walkable distance. That's my feeling on the parking.
It's like because I've walked there to take pictures. It's like an 8-minute walk from here. So
Comments, we can jump into some of the other notes from Josh's review of the site plan.
For removal.
That's a win.
On the other end of Michigan.
Baby steps.
yeah.
I guess then if there's not like specific comment on a few of these, just in summary, then it sounds like the parking isn't going to be a significant concern. The item to be addressed that Josh suggested here, the applicant needs to provide a shared parking agreement to meet motor space and barrier-free parking requirement. You indicated when you were talking about this that there is a bicycle space option.
For every 4 covered bike spaces that you provide, your parking requirements can be reduced by 1.
Okay.
That's why there's the language for 16. And they're also within 350, like technically they needed 5, but they're within 350 feet of 2 bus stations. So then that reduces it by 1. And then the bikes could reduce it entirely.
Okay.
Do you mean bus stop?
Yes, that is what I mean.
Okay, okay.
I
All right.
apologize.
I was gonna say, uh-oh.
Here outside of the parking bit is the photometric plan to meet the site plan requirement. I don't see that being a significant concern here. Landscaping plan, I think we've been fine with administrative review in the past. The last bit is engineering, and we won't know that until we see the engineering. It seems like there's not much of a need to discuss additional conditions here, correct?
I don't imagine the engineers are gonna, because there's not gonna be a park, well, as of right now, there's not gonna be a parking lot, unless they have the shared parking, unless for some reason the shared parking agreement doesn't work out, or they wanna have some parking and don't wanna do the bike route, then they have to come back here, I imagine. But in that instance, there's not gonna be a parking lot, so that reduces, engineering review significantly, but, there is the addition of impervious surface with the, building and then also grading that they'll check, but it should be a pretty straightforward review for.
Okay.
If you reduce the parking entirely and don't do a shared parking agreement, then is there any concern about ADA spaces? or
There,
Ability for people to
realistically,
access?
the parking, even though there might not be a shared parking agreement, and obviously we can't particularly just be like, oh, like, as a city, just be like, oh, people, you can totally park there, but people are gonna ultimately do what they want, and there are neighbors that have ADA accessible spaces nearby.
Well, if this were to happen, I think they probably have to come back to us, but if they didn't have the agreement, would they have to require a single space and that one space be ADA? Is that kind of like what you're thinking? Like, you could have no space with no barrier free? We okay with that? Oh, but okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just thought I would help, like, just by naming some of our plans. So we're committed to accessibility and ensuring that folks can access the space. It's a community-oriented space. Actually, we're the last bit of green, if you know where it is, near the billboard. It's actually a sea of parking lots. And so I think we were trying to prioritize the green space and make arrangements with area businesses, especially because many of them have off hours. The Bomber closes at 3, Crawford Doors closes at 5, and we have like quite a bit of room there. So the priority is accessibility and also conserving the green space for the development of the building. If that's helpful. I think that was the plan.
Yeah, I think
But we can ensure that everyone has accessibility.
I get to the inference that you're making, and I maybe don't think with the applicant's commitment to getting a shared use, or another way to avoid the parking space parking requirement entirely, I don't have a ton of concerns.
Personally, I appreciate the desire to maintain green space, and I think that this is a very appropriate place to not add additional parking.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah. I mean, I
Thank you.
think if you guys get an agreement, I feel very good about that.
Thanks. I think that covers it. Appreciate it. Note for the record that Commissioner Jones Chance is joining us at 7:53. Glad you can make it.
Same.
Um, so the condition does include a shared parking agreement to meet motor space and barrier-free parking requirement, right?
Yeah.
So the condition, I think, covers it adequately enough. You're worried about the alternative here if it's waived in favor of bike parking.
Right.
Okay.
Not that worried about it, but
It is curious.
Yeah.
You know,
The shared parking agreement, can we hear like where talks stand currently with the neighbors?
do we need to if we're conditioning it?
Well, it would impact whether or not we could comfortably condition it.
I think the,
I'm just curious to know if there's a temperature check on that.
I believe you guys have been having conversations, haven't you? Would you be able to come up to the podium that way? It's, in the recording. You're good.
So part of having the parking conversation is also moving for approval for development and into engineering review and permitting before we're officially neighbors, you know? So initial conversations are positive, but also it felt strange to like sort of talk about in specificity until, you know, we're ready to go.
Cart before the horse.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah. But we'll be back here if it doesn't work out. Although I've eaten enough at the Bomber, I feel like I earned one spot over the years. And Rent-A-Center closes at 5, isn't open on Sundays. There's some like sort of the general observation of the use of spaces is that it's not too packed. So I'm hopeful, although they might hear about it like more detailed in the meeting notes here than the conversations we've had. Yeah.
The reason I ask is even though it could look like a great plan and why would they oppose, sometimes business owners would be hesitant to share parking that they themselves have developed. So I'm glad you've initiated conversations. And it does seem reasonable.
Yeah, it's a benefit. It's activity on the block. It's a benefit to community. It's a community space with activity that will generate business, actually. I think it'll offer activity and movement. So I think we'll find a way. So,
Thank you. I appreciate it. Michelle, to your point, I do feel like there being an alternative in these conditions kind of brings some comfort there too. Right? That even in that scenario where that doesn't work out, there is a bike parking alternative that resolves it. Proposed waivers or conditions.
would like to make a motion that the planning commission approve the site plan for the site plan at 326 East Michigan, subject to the following findings, waivers and conditions. Findings, the application substantially complies with section 122-311. Waivers, the approval of a waiver to permit the relocation of the required street trees originally designated to the front of Michigan Avenue due to the presence of an existing gas line. Second, an approval of a waiver to eliminate the requirement for a designated loading zone as the proposed use demonstrates a minimal need for such facility. And conditions. 1, the applicant shall provide a shared parking agreement to meet the motor space and barrier-free space parking requirements. If a shared parking agreement is not possible, the applicant shall provide 16 covered parking spaces or propose a compliant parking lot. 2, the applicant shall provide a photometric plan compliant with section 122-609. 3, the applicant shall provide a foundation landscaping plan compliant with section 122-637. And 4, the applicant shall receive all necessary approvals from city engineer, YCUA, DPW, and the fire department. And
support.
We have a motion by Mike, support by Amanda. Can we get a roll call, please?
Yeah. Commissioner Dunwoody,
Support.
Commissioner Davis Jr.,
support.
Commissioner Smith, Commissioner Shear,
Support.
Commissioner Jones Chance,
Yes.
Commissioner Marin,
Support.
Commissioner Woodring.
Aye. Support.
All right, been approved.
Very good. Thank you. That brings us to the end of new business. The next item on our agenda is public comment for the end of the meeting. A motion would be in order to open the public comment.
So moved.
Motion by Brian, support by Amanda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The floor is again open for comment to the planning commission. Same rules as before. Start with your name, limit to 3 minutes, please. Are we still alone on Zoom?
One person, but they don't have their hand raised.
Very good. We'll wait just a moment if anybody wants to raise their hand for public comment. Yes, please.
30 years plus. I'm not sure if this is the appropriate time to talk about ICE requirements or requests compliance. I support against it. I think that it is egregious that the administration is detaining individuals based on what, no cause. So I'm strongly supporting of that, not to. Thank you.
Appreciate it. In order to close the public comment,
So moved.
Second.
we have a motion by Brian, second by Greg. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. That brings us to the last item on the agenda, adjournment for the meeting.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion by Greg, support by Amanda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Meeting adjourned.
Hey, question, I missed the. on the- I think I heard 16 covered spaces. Is those
How's it going?
spaces?
Requiring
Oh, you know.
It's still light out.
Is that?
The written-
written
to the
text?
record. Yeah, the written says.
I would love